Swap-a-thon. One Bronco, two engines. Join me July 1st through the 7th. No purchase necessary. Come watch me take apart my Bronco, my daily driver, and ruin it with an engine swap. Is your OBS Ford in need of some power upgrades? This thing is a 93 with the 5.0. And as you can see, it's just bone stock. It's got 230,000 miles on it. I drive it every day. It leaks oil out the rear main seal. I don't know if this thing's ever been rebuilt, but if you own an OBS Ford and you're looking at doing an engine swap, hear me out on this. I went through all the possible swaps that I want to do or can do. This is what I came up with. This is the simplest, easiest, best route for me. Maybe not for you, but I'll run through what I've gathered, the information I have. I've LS swapped before, I've Coyote swapped before. I also did an EcoBoost swap. So I'll tell you what I considered for this. Well, it's been a while. I've been busy, but here's the next thing on the list. The Ranger. Still need to put some time into that. But what really needs time is my daily driver. 1993 Bronco. It's runs, drives, not great. It's tired, 230,000 miles. Anyway, this engine out of this pile of shit truck is a 4.8 LS. And that's what's going in the Bronco. Right now I'm working on trying to get this, I need to get this engine pulled out of here so I can do a little bit of maintenance shit to it and then get it ready. In the first week of July, if everything goes according to plan, I'm going to swap this 4.8 into the Bronco with a 4L80. So if you have looked into engine swaps for your OBS Ford, a really popular swap these days is the Coyote. Now, this is in my 86 Mustang. I did the swap myself. I love it. Badass motor, tons of power, great fuel mileage. It's awesome. I considered Coyote swapping my 93 Bronco. I would love to. But the issues are, number one is the price. So the price of the Coyote swap is thousands of dollars more than, let's say, an LS swap. I ran all the numbers on basic parts for LS stuff, Coyote stuff, and I did 4BT Cummins because I was considering all of these swaps. I also considered rebuilding the pushrod 5.0 that's in it now. The reason I don't rebuild that pushrod 5.0 that's in it now is because, sure, I'll rebuild it to factory specs, let's say. I still have transmission that's old and tired, and in my opinion, not a great transmission. I did do a little bit of research on them. Everybody kind of says the same thing. The E4OD, which is what I have, is not the best transmission. So if I was gonna rebuild that stock 5.0, I'd still have to get that transmission rebuilt, which would probably cost, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. Then you have to hope that the transmission shop you pick knows the E4OD. Now sure, you can go buy one from somebody, some website, and probably pay $3,000, $4,000, and whatever. Again, a lot of money for a transmission that already I don't believe is a great transmission, and I don't like the way it shifts currently. So I was also considering transmission options. Now with the Coyote, I would do a 6R80, which is a pretty stout transmission. You get 6 gears. It's known to hold power. They're known to be pretty reliable. So I was looking at the Coyote. Again, the price is high for everything, for engines, for transmissions. And another issue with the Coyote is I'm not building this truck to be a cool truck to drive on the weekends. I'm building this to be a daily driver. So I need it to be as reliable as possible. Now, I'm not saying the Coyote isn't reliable, but if I was to put a Coyote engine in it, it would be a junkyard engine with most likely over 100,000 miles on it. I'm not saying a Coyote is bad after 100,000 miles, but there are things to consider with the Coyote. It has a lot more timing components. You have 4 cams, you have 4 cam phasers, you have I think four timing chains, I believe. So if you have an issue like that, it's a major rebuild or repair. Again, I love the Coyote platform. It's great. In this car, in my 86 Mustang, it's awesome. I use this thing, I don't daily drive this, so I take it out, I rip on it. It's fast, it's cool, it sounds good, all these things. The Coyote was kind of out of the picture on this after the price and after the facts of repairing something, how big are repairs, how expensive are repairs, all that stuff. So I kind of set that idea aside. Then I considered the whole LS deal. Now, things led me closer to the LS that I have access to that most people probably don't. I was able to get a deal on a remanufactured 4L80. Now, in my opinion, the 4L80E is probably one of the best, if not the best, overdrive transmissions. They hold power, they're reliable. And I was able to get a good deal on a reman one, so that kind of pushed me that way already. And then I had somebody who had a 4.8, which there's probably footage in this video of me pulling that 4.8 out of that truck. Now, more recently, we pulled that 4.8 apart to verify that everything inside of it was good, and it was not. So the price went up a little bit because now the same person I was going to get that 4.8 from, he has a 5.3 that he rebuilt, that he put in a vehicle that he's willing to sell. He rebuilt it. I don't know. I can't remember everything he did to it, but it's basically the whole thing's refreshed. Had to pay a little bit more money for it, but now instead of a 4.8, I'm getting a 5.3. I'm getting a engine with new parts and all that stuff, so it's even more reliable. So I got a reman transmission, a reman transfer case. I used the NP261, which is a floor shift because I wanted to keep the floor shift that's already in the Bronco. And now I'll have basically a kind of refreshed, remanned engine. So everything's kind of fresh in it. So that, again, was the route I was planning on taking, and that's the route I'm going to take. I also considered a 4BT, and I was going to use the 4L80 behind the 4BT. Don't know if that was a good idea or not, but after looking at prices on 4BTs, realistically, you can find them cheap, but they're usually unknown mileage and they're considered core engines, rebuildable, whatever. Yeah, they might run, but you run into that whole issue of now you might get an engine that you immediately have to rebuild. And then on top of that, the 4BT doesn't really make power stock. So you need to get some type of injection pump on it right away in order to make some good power, and they rattle a lot. So I didn't want it, or not rattle, but they shake. So I didn't really care for that idea. I know I'd probably get better fuel mileage and stuff, but again, I'd have to turn it up quite a bit to get the power that I would like, because right now it's just too slow. The plan is, in a couple weeks, I'm gonna take that engine out, put that 5.3 in it. Hopefully I can get it done in a week. It is pretty optimistic thinking, but we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna film it, we'll see what happens. So if you're looking into doing these swaps, what are the prices? Well, I wrote them all down at one point in time, but roughly the LS, just base parts, engine, transmission, computer, harness, any little things I could think of off the top of my head. Obviously not every little thing, but the LS was gonna be under $5,000. The Coyote was, I think, closer towards 7,000, and the 4BT was kind of unknown because I would have to buy a adapter for the transmission and then find a cheap core and injection pump and all that. So that kind of went from like 5,000, 6,000 to like 10,000. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not really interested in that. But if you have an OBS Ford, you want to do a swap, I know a lot of guys are like, don't put a Chevy in a Ford. I don't really care. I just need a reliable vehicle that makes good power. So that being said, one more thing about the 5.0 that's in the Bronco. As far as I know, the tuning isn't really there for them. I don't think you can just easily get that engine tuned or that ECU tuned. Like an LS, you can get tunes all day long from a million different people. Coyote, same thing, you can get tunes, all this stuff. Those older engines and these older Fords, I don't think there's a lot of aftermarket support for tuning. So even if I put performance stuff on that engine, I would run into the problem of having it tuned properly and all that. So with all that being said, I chose to do an LS 5.3 4L80E, I'm gonna do a cam while I got the engine, because I do have a cam that I had from previous LS swap, so I'm just gonna throw that in because I have it. I'm also gonna do a little bit of a higher stall converter that is a factory option from Chevy, because I read somewhere that once upon a time they put a 4.8 and a 4L80 in a box truck, and they put a higher stall converter in it. So I bought that converter. It was about 330 bucks. I'm gonna put that converter in it, and hopefully I don't run into any big hang-ups when I'm doing this, and hopefully I get it done in a week, because that's what I need to do. So I need to drive it to get to work. So I'll add some footage in somewhere of us taking that engine out, and then maybe I'll do another update of us pulling that 5.3, and then it should be swap time, swapathon.
Swapathon. Get your tickets now, July 1st through the 7th, 2024.
So if you're interested in doing a swap in your stuff and you want to see what it's going to take to put an LS in a Bronco, it'll be about 2 weeks and I'll have videos up. Until then, I'm just gathering parts and wasting money. But here we go.